What's up, Club? My name is Zanyard, and I'm going to do a tank tier list today from Overwatch 2. We're going to be placing all 10 tanks in order from best to worst. We're going to have my thoughts and opinions on them, and then we're going to try to fix them to make sure what I would nerf or buff about them to be more balanced. This is from my knowledge as a Overwatch 1 GM tank player, and this is what my experience is so far playing. But, keep in mind, this is the start of Overwatch 2. It's been like 4 days since the game came out. So these opinions are subject to change, probably recent or soon, because they're probably going to do some buffs and nerfs. But yeah, so let's just go and get started. D.Va, we're going to do this in alphabetical order. I think D.Va is probably top 2 tanks right now. They did buffer a lot, so right now D.Va has boosters that are pretty quick. She can melee while she's boosting now, so melee doesn't cancel boosters anymore. So you can do the old habit of boosting, meleeing, turning around, and meleeing again. So Boop does 25 more damage, or does 25 damage instead of 15 back in Overwatch 1. So you combine all that, 30 plus 25, that's 85 damage, and you don't even have to shoot them yet. So it's pretty good. But yeah, so her DM is also 3 seconds long, and her recovery duration is the same, so it takes the same amount of time for her DM to come back in Overwatch 2 as it did in 1. But now her DM is 3 seconds, so you technically get 2 seconds of DM faster than Overwatch 1. She's a really good tank right now. So yeah, she's probably the best diver, in my opinion. Depends on the map. Winston's also a really good diver, but we'll talk about him later, and like how they compare. Doomfist is probably C tier, maybe even D tier actually. Doomfist is not really good at all. He doesn't do enough damage. His punch doesn't one shot anymore, which is good. I don't know. I feel like they didn't rework him enough to be a tank, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't think he should have been able to one shot in the first place. But they took that away. I think a big problem is his power block. His power block needs something. Because right now in his power block, you can get javelined out of it, you can get hooked out of it, you can get rocked out of it, you can get slept out of it, and all that is not great because he just doesn't match up well against any other tank currently. So they might need to do something with his power block to either his power block takes less damage for it to charge up, or he can block certain CCs. For instance, like Sigma Rock doesn't get blocked by any deflector cooldown or anything like that, but Orisa Javelin does. So if you think about it, Orisa Javelin gets eaten by D.Va, Matrix gets blocked by Genji Deflect. So maybe Doomfist Power Block can act more like a deflect kind of a mechanic to where like it doesn't get canceled by Sleep Dart, Javelin, or by Hook. But maybe Sigma can counter him by throwing a rock at him. That's my take on that. But overall, I think his power block is the thing in his buffing because he can be very obnoxious, but he's just also very easy to counter with any other tank for the most part. Junker Queen is probably C tier. She is not good. She's not great, but she's not like unplayable and bad. She's also very map dependent though. Like for instance, on like long range maps like Circuit Royale and like dive maps like Dorado, she's not very good on unless you hit your throwing knife to pull people off of high ground. And she got really hard nerfed since the beta. For one, now D.Va can out eat her knife. If like D.Va's Matrix is up, her knife will just fly back to Junker Queen. Same with Sigma's eat. Same with deflect. Like her knife isn't like unblockable anymore. So that's a big nerf to her. They also made her commanding shot 15 seconds instead of the 11 that it was back in the beta. So she doesn't get that over health or speed buff as much as she used to. So she takes a lot more skill to play now because you got to think about when you use your commanding shout, because if you fuck up your commanding shout, that is the only one you probably would get for that fight, in my opinion. But on certain maps, like probably push maps or King of the Hill maps, she's probably still pretty good, not or like average at least. But Zarya is better on those maps, and I'll talk about her later. And Reinhardt's also pretty okay at push maps, so talk about them later. But yeah, Junker Queen C tier. If I had to do anything to buff her, it's kind of a tricky one. Maybe increase her knife speed to where like it's easier to hit the knife, because the knife is still a tricky projectile to hit, especially since there's ways to block it now. Maybe make her commanding shout 14 seconds instead of 15 seconds, because I think 15 is a bit overkill. Maybe you also probably need to nerf her ult though. Her ult is still really strong. But Kiriko's not in comp yet, so we don't know exactly how much her ult will get countered by Kiriko until she's in comp. So that's just something we gotta wait and see on. But yeah. Orisa's a tricky one because Orisa is like B to A tier in GM right now, or like higher ranks, but she's really like S tier in like lower ranks. So like I think I'll just go middle of the road and put her in A tier. And the reason she's so good in A tier is because she's very tanky, ironically for a tank. So she has Fortify, so she takes reduced damage. They gave her a health buff, I think, in Overwatch from the beta, second beta till now. Her javelin 6 seconds again, which is great. The javelin's the most fun part of her kit. I'm glad they made that 6 seconds. But yeah, people kind of complain about her, but like I don't see people complaining too much, except that she's unkillable. So I would honestly leave her as she is now currently because she doesn't have a shield and she doesn't have any like damage mitigation techniques like power block. It deflects 90% of damage. Commanding shout gives you overhealth, which deflects damage. She has Fortify and her Javelin Spin, which blocks damage. But I don't know. It feels like Orisa like feels weird without a shield. Maybe I just need to get used to that. So she does have like ways of blocking damage. I'm just being dumb. But if I had to nerf her, maybe make Fortify a less percentage of damage reduction. Like I don't actually know what it is now, but like reduce it by like 5 or 10%. I feel like that's the way to go, but I could be wrong. I think Orisa's fine to be honest, but people would disagree with that. Reinhardt is probably D tier as well. Reinhardt is very, very, very bad. And I'm sorry for all my Rein players out there. You guys are kings, but your character is dog shit. And it's because, like, right now, other characters do his job better. For instance, Sigma has a shield like Rein does, but Sigma can shoot while shielding. And then on, like, rushing, Zarya has more damage, and she has 2 bubbles now to bubble herself to block damage. And Junker Queen has overhealth abilities for all of her teammates and gives them speed boosts, and she just has better survivability than Ryan because she gets HP back when she does damage. And she just does more damage in general, and her ult's objectively better. But Ryan is still okay to play in push maps, like that new push map that came out. Ryan's pretty good on, but overall, Reinhardt needs something. For one, you can't even play Reinhardt without a Lucio. There needs to be some way to be able to make Reinhardt being played without a Lucio. My suggestion is when the same speed that Reinhardt is getting speed boosted by Lucio, he should have that when his shield's up, but it doesn't stack with Lucio. So for instance, I don't know the numbers. I think it's like a 20% speed boost when Lucio is just regular speeding. So when Reinhardt has a shield up, he keeps that 20%, and it doesn't stack with Lucio's 20%, but if Lucio is on his team and Lucio amps it up, then Reinhardt goes faster. But like I feel like Reinhardt needs that kind of speed to be able to close the gaps between other tanks because his shield is paper thin now. His shield is only 1200 and it used to be 1600, and way back when it used to be 2000. So either buff his shield health to like 1500 or make it so when his shield is up he can speed so he can close those gaps a little bit better. I think the rest of his kit's fine. I really like that they canceled his chart. They can do cancel charge now. 2 fire strikes is nice. Yeah, that's my opinion on Reinhardt. Roadhog is probably middle of the road, B tier. I wouldn't buff Roadhog at all because he's a very frustrating character to play against, and anyone can attest to that. When people found out that Roadhog was actually decent to be played in Overwatch 2, people were actually pretty upset. Yeah, so the only thing that really changed about Roadhog is that he gained 100 extra HP, and his breather now heals him half still, so it's 350. Yeah, I wouldn't change anything about Roadhog. He's fine. It's whatever. He still counters annoying things like Genji and Wrecking Ball. Probably the only Wrecking Ball counters, in my opinion. Yeah, Roadhog's fine. Sig, I'd put in A tier. People might disagree with me on that. He's better than Orisa, but he's still an A tier. Sigma right now is in a weird spot because Sigma, like I said, does like other tanks' jobs better. He has a shield, he has a stun, he has his grass to get overhealth. He's got quite a bit of HP, and his ult's still really good if you can land it. Because I don't know exactly how the DPS speed buff works quite yet, so sometimes it feels tricky to land his ultimate. But the problem with Sigma currently is that other tanks are just better. So I feel like Sigma is balanced. He might need a slight nerf, but like other tanks just overshine him in other ways. Like I said, like D.Va has high ground advantage. Her DM is insane, and she has like really good damage now because they also reduced her pellet spread on her shotgun missile blaster thingies. So it's like Sigma's good, but the other heroes are just better, and not for like any specific reason other than just like they just are. If I had to nerf something about Sigma, because he doesn't need a buff, if I didn't nerf it, I'd probably nerf his rock damage to 90 instead of 100. So I think 100 is ridiculous. I feel like them buffing the rock from 70 to 100 was just asking people to nerf it. But they obviously want to keep Sigma's one shot as a viable thing, so nerf it to 90. It doesn't need to be 100. Also, maybe make his shield health 500, but give him his 1 second deploy back. I feel like that's fair. I really missed the 1 second deploy, so that might be biased because I'm a Sigma player, but I really do feel like if you nerf something at Sigma, it's got to be his Brock and his shield health, but if you nerf his shield health, you got to buff the deploy time. Winston's an S tier tank along with D.Va. I think Winston is a top 3 tank. The differences between D.Va and Winston, though, is that D.Va is better against the matchup against Winston. That's why Winston's worse. But they both do the dive job perfectly fine. So if you're playing on Dorado or you're playing on Watchpoint Gibraltar or any kind of diving map, both tanks are amazing picks for those maps. However, if you're playing Winston against a D.Va, you probably want to swap the D.Va yourself because Winston loses the matchup against D.Va because D.Va does so much damage and D.Va can boop Winston out of his bubble. Winston's also just really good against Sig. Like I said, like that's another reason why Sig is just not great or good, but like not top tier because like the tanks that are really good counter him. So yeah, that's why he's A tier. But so Winston's really good against Sig. If you land your rock against Winston, that's fine. But Winston has so much health, you can't really do much anyway. And Winston can damage you through your suck, can damage you through your shield. There's like Sigma just gets fucked by Winston's damage pretty much, especially if Sigma's anti or anything like that. So yeah, like Winston doesn't do like enough damage to just melt Sig, but like Winston's just a good pick against Sigma. I don't know if anything about Winston. Maybe it'd be his bubble health. I'm not quite sure. Like Winston feels strong, but he doesn't feel like broken strong. But I don't know. I feel like his bubble does too much health, but that might be a team skill issue because teammates for some reason don't like to shoot the bubble. I don't know why. Also, with one less character in the game, his bubble health being that much kind of feels oppressive as well. So I would say nerf his bubble health. If they don't nerf his bubble health, I would say maybe nerf his overall armor. Like we give him more HP instead of armor, or maybe just cut off the armor just entirely, so survivability is less. Yeah, he's not super broken, but he's still like top tier tank. Wrecking Ball is in a very weird situation currently. I would honestly put him above Junker Queen, but like he's not like an amazing tank in my opinion. He's annoying, but he's not like oppressive or does anything high damage wise. His Ball's job in Overwatch 1 was to basically be like tank tracer and annoy the backline so people had to peel for him, and that made space for your second tank to move in and your team to move in, or his high mobility made it easier to dive like squishy targets like Widowmaker or like things in the back, you know what I mean? Because it'd take longer for people to peel for those characters because they're farther in the back. But because Widowmaker got her HP buff, for one, Ball, it's harder to kill Widow now because she has 25 more HP. And you could say that, well, there's no more stuns in the game, so Ball is more viable. You could say that. But for some reason, Ball just doesn't do enough damage to warrant, like, picking him over someone else. Like, there's just better divers. Like, D.Va dives better, Winston dives better, because Winston has a shield, and he has Sniper Monkey now, and D.Va just does way more damage. And since Ball's the only tank, there's no second tank in the front line to be able to push up when Ball makes noise in the back. So if Ball's like doing one thing in the back, he's not killing anything because it doesn't have damage, and then the tank on the enemy team can still look at the front line, and because you have no tank in the front line on your team because the Ball's doing something, the other tank can just shoot you guys for free. It's a weird situation. Honestly, Ball just kind of feels like a gimmicky hero to where you just use him to stall. Because there's no CCs in the game anymore, at least there's not a lot. So Ball is really good for stalling, and he has a lot of HP. He has 700, I think, and then he also has his adaptive shields. He really does just feel like a gimmicky, stally kind of hero, unless like you're really good at him. But I don't know what they could do to buff him or nerf him, to be honest. I don't know. I'm also not really a ball player. Ball is like my least play tank. So if you guys have any comments or suggestions about how to change ball, or if you think he's in a good spot, let me know in the comments below. It's up to you. You guys can let me know. And our final tank is Zarya. And her and D.Va could be the best tank depending on the map. So like I would put these both at number 1. So like they're tied for like number 1 spot. So Zarya wins the matchup against D.Va all the time. So you could play D.Va on almost any map, like almost any map. But if there's a Zarya on the enemy team, you might want to swap off D.Va and go Monkey or Mirror the Zarya. Mirror. Because for instance, like on maps like push maps and King of the Hill maps, if you're playing D.Va against a Zarya, you're just gonna get melted. Zarya has insane amount of damage. And since she can bubble herself twice, that means it's more reliable to keep your charge up. The only time like D.Va wins like the kind of Zarya D.Va matchup is if it's a high ground map, like I said, like Dorado or Gibraltar. D.Va's always gonna be a better pick than Zarya on those maps. But if you're playing against a Zarya on like any other map, like King of the Hill or anything like that, you probably just want to mirror the Zarya or go Winston. Because with Winston, at least you have a bubble to protect yourself. You can go jump in, do some shooty in the back. You can jump out, and you can also shoot from a range with Sniper Monkey. But yeah, like Zarya is just super impressive right now because it feels like you could only play Zarya or Winston against another Zarya. Because no other tank really has anything to mitigate the high amounts of damage that Zarya can output. Like, Orisa's Javelin spin doesn't block the beam. She has Fortify to reduce how much damage she's taking, but like that's about it. Sigma has his shield, but his shield gets melted really, really fast, and his suck doesn't absorb the Zarya damage. Hog's just a big meatball. Junker Queen, if she uses her commanding shout and Zarya just melts her over health away, it just melts it away, it just melts Junker Queen down. And Zarya can bubble herself to wipe the effects of getting the bleed, so Junker Queen keeps getting health. That goes away when Zarya bubbles herself. Ball is just an old battery for her. Same with Doom. Ryan could be a good matchup depending on the map, but Ryan needs to be able to close that distance and brawl before his shield breaks for that to work. And with his shield being as low as it is, it's kind of hard. But yeah, so the way I would nerf Zarya is, this is hard. Maybe. I don't think she needs a direct nerf. Maybe nerf her damage per second by 10. But also, I feel like there needs to be more ways to be able to negate her damage as a tank. For instance, D.Va, if her defense matrix is up, it should reduce the damage by Zarya's beam by 40 to 50%. Sigma's Grasp does the same thing. Orisa's Javelin destroys the beam because, it's moving so fast it destroys the beam before it hits her. Pog can stay. And I think Power Block. Power Block already blocks 90% of damage. Yeah, I feel like these 3 characters might need something to make their matchups more fair against Zarya. Ryan just needs a buff in general, and so does Doomfist. So, like, if they get their buffs like I talked about, then the matchup against Zarya is better anyway. And, sometimes, Zarya should be able to counter things like Hog and Ball and Junker Queen, so that's fair. I just feel like these 3 get hard countered too hard by Zarya to make them unviable. So, like, maybe it doesn't need to be 40 for 50%, maybe like 30 to 20%, but like I feel like these 2 need like some kind of damage counter towards Zarya when they have no defense against her. Because like Zarya hard counters like over half the tank roster currently. She counters Sig, counters D.Va, counters Orisa, counters Hog, counters Ball, counters Doomfist, counters Junker Queen. Can counter Ryan on most maps because of his shield health. So yeah, like there needs to be some way to where like Zarya just doesn't counter the whole entire tank roster. Yeah. That's my opinions. Top 3 tanks are D.Va, Zarya, Winston in my opinion. If you disagree with me, let me know what you disagree about me in the comments below. If you agree with me, let me know what you agree on in the comments below. If you guys have any suggestions on nerfs or buffs that you think the characters deserve, also let me know in the comments below. But I appreciate you guys watching the tier list, and I will see you in the next video. Later.